Ladies and gentlemen, we are thrilled to be joined by Mr. Gabriel Clark, who is the Senior Lecturer in Visual Communication at UTS.
Yeah.
Can you please introduce yourself?
Hi, my name's Gabriel Clark. I am a Senior Lecturer in the Visual Communications degree at UTS. I've been there for around 10 years, been teaching as a casual academic, and now I'm a full-time. And my sort of area of speciality that I teach and I research into is graphic storytelling, illustration, moving image within graphic design and in visual communications.
That's awesome. What makes visual communication distinct from other design streams like product design and interior architecture?
I would say it's the outcome. Like you think image and text relationships. So visual communication really plays with how images and text combine to communicate. And so that's like one of the foundational principles. And in that, the outcomes for that are very much around wherever you see images and text. So you'll see it in app design, you'll see it in interface design, you'll also see it in branding, you'll also see it in publication design, illustration, photography, digital media, like everywhere has images and text. And so we really are about outcomes. So the similarities with interior architecture and product are probably in the teaching and the pedagogical approach and how using a sort of studio-based creative practice where in class you're always working on problems, it's really hands-on, and it's really around design practice and creative practice.
Thank you. What challenges do international students face when studying visual communication in a new cultural environment?
I think one of the challenges I often see is a challenge to think that students from international, from sort of other backgrounds, don't realize they have so much knowledge from their own home country that they can and should be bringing into the classroom. That there's this sort of expectation that they think they should just be looking at, say, the Western or Sydney-based design companies and that sort of thing. But what I really encourage my students to do is to bring what you know. And if you've grown up in a different country and you know that in a media landscape overseas, use that one, because that's actually going to be easier. So I think those sorts of challenges, understanding that you have within you some really important things to bring to the table from your own sort of cultural background. I think that's really important. And that's a real challenge for people to realize that when they're actually in a new environment.
International students have got the ingredients to bring to the table.
Hell yeah.
In order for them to get a job after graduate in Australia, should they mix that ingredient with the Australian one?
I think, yes. I think that any potential employer is really interested in your sort of experience, your outlook, your global outlook, and especially a global outlook. I think that having stuff in, say, even in your home language that isn't in English in a portfolio is totally fine, because what it shows is a cultural kind of richness. So you don't want to narrow it, you want to broaden it. And then if a potential employer sees that sort of work in a portfolio, they see English and another language, they really kind of can be motivated by that. And it's actually a really good selling point outside of just everyone else.
Oh, that's interesting. Never thought about that before. How does the degree support the development of a professional portfolio?
All the subjects you do are outcomes focused, so they all can be added to your portfolio. So even from foundational subjects in first year, it's all around exploring the foundational principles of graphic design, image and text relationships, and then applying them to different outcomes. So say it could be digital, it could be print-based, but all those sort of outcomes can be built into a portfolio. Also, we sort of have a subject in third year called Research Through Design, where we actually engage with the students to develop their own portfolio. And what's useful in that sort of process is understanding what makes your work unique, and how do you kind of show yourself to a potential employer that makes you stand out from the other kind of designers in the world. And a lot of that is around showing how you think and how you can apply concept to an idea. Because one of the unique things of Viscom students is that they have a real ability to do research, create really interesting concepts and then communicate that. And that's like the magic sauce of communicating tricky things, communicating problems. That's really what VisCom students really excel at.
Okay, so what kinds of roles do graduates of visual communication typically go into?
When you think of design, people think of design studios, graphic design studios. So you'll also see, in more broader sort of strokes, students graduate into motion design studios as well, so moving image. We've had students move into, outside of kind of the sort of typical kind of interface, website kind of interface design sort of spaces, UX. We've also seen students moving into sort of design research spaces, and that's sort of an industry like service design, where you're using research principles and to sort of problem solve and then communicate those problems. That's actually a really big industry. That's a great industry. And even more other sectors like finance and banking and insurance. All these big corporate media organizations need comms. They need people to communicate research. They need all this sort of stuff. And so graduates don't just go to a design studio. They kind of can go anywhere really, because these skills are really required in so many different parts of so many different industries.
Understood. And what is the expected starting salary range for visual comms graduates in Australia?
I would say it's, as a junior, you'd probably start at about 70 to 80, and then you'd sort of move up from there. 70 to 80,000, that is.
Yes.
Yeah. And then it's sort of it depends also. Some students like to set up their own business, and so they often hit that mark very quickly in their own sort of freelance practice. But other students who are working into a job would actually start sort of seeing that sort of those offers being made at those sort of early days. We do have internship programs that sort of link people to industry, so that in third year you also, in a professional practice subject we have, where students are expected to do 6 weeks internship, which is we give the suggested list of studios and places to approach, but then also that's also where we again encourage students to bring in their own interests. And even if, say, a student might go back home, they might know a design studio back home that they want to really work at. You know, you can do that as well. Yeah.
Students can find part-time jobs or do freelance from early days. For example, at the end of year 1 or year 2.
So many students do it, while they're studying. Yes. And in fact, and even if they're not doing it while they're studying or as freelance work, they're definitely working on projects. There's a real kind of a philosophy of teaching that I have, which is about iteration. You do things more than once to get good at it, right? And if you can master that, you get good at anything. You get good at design, you get anything. Just do it more than once. So a lot of students use that while they're studying. So instead of just doing the coursework, they're also trying to find projects to work on so that their skills are getting developed. Students are working on sort of film students, short films, making the film titles for their film. Yes. Things like that, so they can go out and find projects, other similar projects in the areas they want, to help build up their own sort of experience and portfolio. And not just working on other sort of student projects, but also, starting to sort of play with developing things for clients. Yeah.
I saw a short film of you tested, and it's called 2166.
Oh, yes.
It's about Kabumara.
The animation. Yeah, yes. That's a great film.
Very interesting one.
Yeah. That's a really good one. We screened that once at one of my Read to Me events, because a lot of those students actually participate in our storytelling events with the live graphic storytelling.
Yes. Yeah. So, final question for you. What makes the difference between graduates who succeed and the ones who struggle?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think it is about the ability to work in a team and the ability to kind of take feedback and critique. Because what I see is students who are very sensitive to any form of feedback and criticism often don't really have the flexibility to be able to change and adapt. And I think adaptation and change is actually a really important skill, and especially with the rise of AI. Like, I don't think AI is going to kill our industry. I think it's going to change how people make things. But what that means is that anyone who's working needs to be able to adapt. So the skill you want, I reckon, is about being able to be flexible and adapt. And so I look at AI as like a space where students now, you don't really specialize and know one thing. You're actually probably going to have to retrain on software every 5 years as, you know, the high turnover of different apps and software continues. So that ability to adapt and be flexible, I think, and I reckon that students who have those skills are the ones who are kind of success.
Thank you so much for your insights.
That's all right.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah,
today.
lovely to meet you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gab.